Welcome to Shadow Tales. Tonight, you'll hear the true story of a boy who vanished in the woods for days only to return with an unbelievable tale. But the real question is, what was with him? Get ready to find out. Enjoy the video. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.
The Boy Who Vanished in the Dark. This chilling event took place in 2014 in Daniel Boone National Forest, Kentucky. A 10-year-old boy named Jacob disappeared while camping with his family. After days of searching, he was finally found, but what he said left everyone disturbed. Everything started like a normal day. Jacob was gathering firewood with his father, just a few steps away from their campsite. He got distracted, maybe chasing a squirrel, and wandered off. When his father turned around, Jacob was gone. At first, his father thought Jacob was hiding or playing a prank. But as minutes turned into hours, panic set in. His name was shouted into the forest, but there was no response. More campers joined the search, but there was no trace of Jacob. As the sun set, authorities were called in. Search teams scoured the woods with flashlights and bloodhounds. Helicopters flew overhead, searching for any sign of the missing boy, but there was nothing. By the third day, hope was fading. No child could survive that long in the dense wilderness without food or water. And then, something impossible happened. Jacob was found 10 kilometers away from the campsite, standing near the edge of a cliff. When the rescuers reached him, they expected to see a traumatized, exhausted child, scratched, bruised, covered in dirt. But Jacob looked almost untouched. His clothes were clean. His shoes had no mud. Despite the rough terrain, his body showed no signs of injury. The strangest thing, however, was his expression. He wasn't crying or frightened. Instead, he stared blankly into the distance, as if his mind was somewhere else. His family rushed to embrace him, but he barely reacted. He refused to talk at first. Then, after hours of silence, he whispered, "He didn't let me leave, until now." Jacob later described what had happened. He claimed that someone or something had been with him the entire time. It was tall, thin, and made of shadows. Its face was featureless, its body stretched unnaturally. On the first night, Jacob sensed that he was being watched, but he couldn't see anything. The second night, he woke up to find a dark figure standing over him. It didn't move, it didn't speak. Then it reached out and led him away. Jacob couldn't remember exactly where they went. He only knew that he wasn't cold, wasn't hungry. The figure kept him safe but wouldn't let him leave. Then, on the morning of the third day, the shadowy being finally allowed him to go. It told Jacob to close his eyes and walk. When he opened them, he was standing at the cliff's edge, where the rescuers found him. To this day, no one can explain how Jacob survived. How did he travel so far without getting hurt? Why wasn't he dirty, hungry, or exhausted? Some locals believe that something ancient lives deep in Daniel Boone National Forest. Stories of missing children have been told for generations. Some are found, but not all of them. The return of the missing man. In the northwestern United States, in Washington State, known for its vast and wild forests, a true event took place in 1985. A man disappeared without a trace. Years later, when he returned, what he told was beyond belief. Gary Michaels was a 32-year-old nature enthusiast. He loved camping and spending time outdoors. That year, he set out on a solo hiking trip in the Cascade Mountains. He told his friends and family that he would be back in a few days, assuring them he would be careful as always. But after that day, no one ever heard from Gary again. As the days passed, his family grew worried. Authorities were alerted, and search and rescue teams launched a massive operation. Helicopters, K-9 units, and volunteers scoured the forest. But there was no trace of him, no campsite, no belongings, no footprints. It was as if Gary had never been there at all. Search efforts lasted for weeks, but nothing was found. Authorities speculated that he might have fallen off a cliff or drowned in a river. Eventually, his family had no choice but to accept that he was gone. A tombstone was placed, but his body was never found. Exactly 7 years later, in November 1992, a man walked barefoot into a small-town police station in Washington. His clothes were torn, his hair was matted, and his eyes were wide with fear, as if he had seen something beyond human comprehension. Gary Michaels had returned. The strangest thing about him was that he hadn't aged at all. The man who disappeared at 32 still looked exactly 32. His skin was smooth, his face unmarked by time. How was that possible? Police contacted his family. When they saw him, they were in shock. His mother broke into tears, while his father whispered, This isn't real," because Gary looked untouched by time. Where had he been all these years? That was the biggest mystery. When authorities and doctors questioned him, Gary trembled as he spoke. He described hearing a strange hum in the forest. The sound was unnatural deep, low, and inhuman. Looking around, he noticed a black mist moving between the trees. Slowly, it drifted toward him. He wanted to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The last thing he remembered was the sky splitting open and a dark void swallowing him. After that, he recalled nothing. When he woke up, he was in a strange place. It looked like a forest, but everything felt wrong. The trees were too tall, the sky was different, and worst of all, he was not alone. There were beings without eyes, tall, thin, human-like, but completely unnatural shadows. They moved silently, whispering in strange tones, but they never spoke. Gary felt like he had been trapped there for years, but he never felt hungry, thirsty, or tired. Time flowed differently there. Days never passed, only an endless night. And then, suddenly, he was back. He woke up by the side of a road. There was no sign of struggle, no indication of where he had been. It felt like he had just stepped out of the woods. But in the real world, 7 years had passed. Authorities and doctors dismissed his story as impossible. But DNA tests confirmed he was, without a doubt, Gary Michaels. To this day, no one knows what really happened. Some believe he was abducted by aliens, while others think he was pulled into another dimension. But the most terrifying possibility is that something held him there and only let him go. A few years later, Gary disappeared again. This time, he was never seen again. Even today, hikers in Washington forests report seeing a strange black mist drifting between the trees. Maybe Gary was never alone. Maybe they are still there.
I hope you enjoyed these chilling stories. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more horror stories. Until next time, stay in the light.